Welcome to the Courtroom Club. We guide people through property transfers all the time here in South Africa. And frankly, property law can get complicated.
Especially with sectional titles.
Exactly. So today we're opening up our firm's knowledge base for a deep dive. We're focusing on one document that honestly seems to cause more stress than almost any other in a sectional title sale.
Ah, the levy clearance certificate, the LCC.
That's the one. It really is a bottleneck sometimes.
It can be. It's the gatekeeper at the deeds office for these types of properties. So our mission today is, first, to clarify what it actually is.
Right. But maybe more importantly, we need to nail down the answer to that really common, often quite heated question.
Who pays for it? Seller or buyer?
Precisely. Who is legally on the hook for the costs tied to the certificate?
Okay. And look, we know you need clear answers quickly.
So let's give you the bottom line up front, the immediate takeaway. In almost, and I mean almost every single case, the seller is responsible for paying for the LCC.
That's the standard rule.
And this is the crucial bit, the payment isn't just about settling your last month's contribution.
No, the calculation, the total amount required, that's often where sellers get caught completely by surprise. It can demand quite a large lump sum, payable immediately.
And that lump sum, well, it's not really up for negotiation, is it?
Not at all. It's absolutely critical to understand this. Without that levy clearance certificate officially issued by the body corporate or the HOA and lodged correctly,
The transfer just stops, dead in the water.
it cannot legally be registered at the deeds office. It's a hard stop,
Yeah.
a legal requirement.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is this certificate certifying? Is it just, a rubber stamp saying all paid up?
Not quite. It's much more than that. Think of it as an official financial declaration. It's issued by the scheme's management, could be the managing agent, the body corporate trustees directly, maybe the homeowners association.
And it verifies.
Yeah.
What specifically?
It verifies that the seller's entire account linked to that specific property being sold is clear, completely clear. And importantly, clear up to a specified future date.
A future date. Okay, hold that thought. What are the key things it checks off? You mentioned it's like a detailed audit.
It is. It confirms three main financial points. First, obviously, all the standard monthly levies are paid up. That includes any special levies raised while the seller owned the place.
Right.
Second, any penalties or interest charged for late payments. Those have to be settled completely. Any admin fees, too.
Okay, makes sense.
And third, this is often the kicker, it confirms that the required advance contributions covering levies for future months have also been paid in full.
The advance payments. Definitely circle back to that. So this whole LCC mechanism, it's not just some administrative hurdle someone thought up. It's actually baked into the law.
Deeply. This Sectional Titles Act mandates it. It's non-negotiable for a reason.
And that reason is?
Primarily, it's about protection and ensuring the scheme's financial health doesn't wobble during transfers. It provides a sort of twofold legal shield.
Okay, shield number one.
Buyer protection. It guarantees that you, the purchaser, are not going to suddenly inherit a pile of the seller's old debts or arrears. You get the property financially clean.
Right, a completely fresh start. No hidden financial skeletons in the closet.
Exactly. And shield number two protects the scheme itself, the body corporate or the HOA. They run on levies, right? For maintenance, insurance, security, all that. The LCC stops the scheme from having to absorb the debt left by someone who's sold up and moved on. It keeps their budget intact and ensures services continue for everyone else.
So without that certificate in hand, the conveyancer literally cannot proceed with lodging the transfer documents at the deeds office.
Correct. It physically cannot happen, which just underscores how vital this piece of paper is in the whole legal process.
Okay, so if the LCC's main job is protecting the buyer from the seller's past debts,
Well,
it seems pretty logical who should be paying for it.
it does, doesn't it?
Let's just state the standard rule clearly then. The seller is primarily and legally responsible for covering all the costs needed to get that certificate issued.
Absolutely. The seller pays. It stems from a basic property law principle. Liability for levies attaches to ownership. The debts were incurred or relate to the period when the seller owned the unit.
So they have to clear that slate before they hand over ownership.
Precisely. They need to discharge that liability.
And what if they don't, or they delay? The consequences sound pretty severe, not just a slap on the wrist.
Oh, it's a complete showstopper, a total block. If the seller digs their heels in or just can't pay the required amount, the managing agent or body corporate will simply refuse point blank to issue the LCC.
And then,
And then the conveyancer can't lodge, the transfer documents sit there, the whole sale grinds to a halt, which can cause huge problems, potential breach of contract if deadlines in the sale agreement are missed.
okay, so the rule is seller pays, but as attorneys, we always have to ask about the what-ifs. Are there any circumstances, however rare, where the buyer might chip in for these LCC costs?
Look, it's very unusual, and we generally advise strongly against it, but it can happen only if, and this is a big only if, it's explicitly, clearly, unambiguously written into the actual offer to purchase agreement, signed by both parties.
And why might that happen? What kind of scenario?
Maybe in a distressed sale situation, or perhaps if there are really significant arrears and the buyer negotiates a lower purchase price specifically on the understanding, they'll help clear some of that historical debt just to get the deal done faster.
I see. A very specific negotiation point.
Very specific. But even in those rare cases, you have to remember, the LCC is still issued in respect of the seller's account being cleared. The fundamental legal responsibility doesn't technically shift, even if the buyer provides some funds contractually.
Got it. Okay, now let's get into what you called the kicker earlier. This is where things get, well, really interesting and often quite stressful for sellers.
Yes. The invoice arrives for the LCC.
And the amount is way higher than they expected. Maybe 3-4 times what they thought they owed for their last month or two. Let's break down why that final figure can be such a shock.
The surprise happens because, as we said, the managing agent isn't just looking at the last month's levy. They have to do a full reconciliation. Every single item tied to that property account.
Right, so let's list the components. Obviously, number one is any actual outstanding monthly levies, the normal contributions.
Correct. Then number 2, special levies. Let's say the body corporate decided 6 months ago to repaint the whole complex and raised a special levy for it, payable over 3 months. If any part of that fell due before the transfer date during the seller's ownership,
The seller has to pay their share in full before they get clearance.
absolutely, even if the painting hasn't started yet. If it was due, it's on their bill.
Okay, then what else adds to the total?
Well, then you get the, let's call them the punitive or collection-related costs. Any interest charged because payments were late, any penalties applied according to the scheme rules,
Standard stuff for debt.
and potentially quite significant legal fees. If the seller was seriously behind on levies, and the body corporate had to hand the account over to attorneys, like us, for collection,
Those legal costs incurred by the scheme to chase the debt get added to the seller's final LCC bill.
they must be paid, yes. The scheme needs to recover those costs. No clearance certificate until they are.
Okay, levies, special levies, interest, penalties, legal fees. But you said there was one other big item, the one that causes the real sharp intake of breath.
The advance levy requirement. This is the big one. Depending on the scheme's rules, and it varies, the managing agent will typically demand payment for future levies, usually 3, sometimes 4, maybe even up to 6 months' worth of levies paid up front.
Whoa, hold on. 6 months in advance. If I'm selling my place and the transfer is happening next month, the new owner starts paying levies then, right? So why am I, the seller, having to pay for potentially half a year of services after I've left? That sounds, well, almost unfair. How is that justified legally?
That is the million-dollar question we get asked all the time. And look, it does feel counterintuitive. But there's a solid rationale rooted in practical financial management for the scheme.
Go on.
Think about the timing of a transfer. The property registers in the deeds office. Great. But it takes time for the conveyancer to finalize everything, notify the managing agent officially, and for the agent to update their billing system, stop billing the seller, start billing the new owner.
Okay, there's an administrative lag.
Exactly, a gap. During that period, the scheme still has bills to pay: security, cleaning, insurance, maintenance contracts. They need guaranteed cash flow.
So the advance payment acts as a kind of financial safety net, a buffer.
Precisely. It ensures the body corporate or HOA isn't left short, that services don't get interrupted while the admin catches up. It guarantees liquidity during that ownership transition. And importantly, case law generally supports this practice as a reasonable operational requirement for community schemes.
Okay, that makes more sense when you put it like that. It's about protecting the scheme's cash flow during the handover.
Correct. Let's use a concrete example. Numbers make this real. Imagine a seller thinks, okay, I missed the last 2 months' levies, that's it.
Right. What might the actual LCC bill look like?
Okay, let's say those 2 months of unpaid standard levies come to 4,000 Rand.
4,000 Rand.
Then maybe there's a bit of penalty interest for late payment, say 200 Rand.
Okay.
And because the account was in default, the scheme had some minor legal costs getting letters sent out. Let's add 500 Rand for that.
So 4,700 Rand so far? Still manageable, maybe?
But then the managing agent says their policy requires 3 months advance levy contribution. And based on the unit's levy, that comes to 6,000 Rand.
6,000 Rand.
Right.
On top of the arrear.
On top, so now you add it all up. 4,000 in arrears, 200 in interest, 500 in legal fees, plus 6,000 in advance levies.
That's 10,700 Rand.
10,700 Rand. That's the amount the seller needs to pay right now in cash to get that LCC issued and unlock the transfer.
Wow. Okay, I can see how that number causes serious stress. It's a big chunk of cash, often unexpected, needed immediately.
It absolutely is, and we genuinely see transfers delayed simply because the seller needs an extra week or two to scramble together that, say, 10,700 Rand. It wasn't factored into their moving budget.
And this is very, you have to stress the reassurance bit here, right? That advance payment isn't just gone forever.
Crucially, no. It is not a penalty or an extra fee. It's an advance. After the transfer successfully registers, the managing agent does a final reconciliation. Any portion of that advance payment covering the period after the transfer day, the time when the new owner is legally responsible for levies, is calculated and refunded back to the seller.
So in our example, if the transfer happens after 1 month of that 3-month advance period, the seller should eventually get 2 months' worth of levies back.
Essentially, yes. The exact calculation depends on the dates, but the principle holds. It's reconciled and the unused portion is returned. It just takes a little time post-transfer.
Okay, that reconciliation and refund point is really important for sellers to hear. Right, let's shift gears slightly. For you, the listener, navigating this, let's map out the practical steps. How does one actually get the LCC smoothly?
Assuming the seller is ready to pay, the process itself is fairly structured. Step 1. The conveyancer handling the transfer formally requests the levy clearance figures from the managing agent or the body corporate.
Step